Structure is just a form of organization. Routine is creating a habit to that procedure. It's predictability that you as a parent and your child can count on.
And the possibility of change is part of the flexibility that comes with an established routine.
Organization. It helps the child organize their thoughts. It's going to properly sequence logic. It's going to free up the cognitive resources for learning.
Children who know what's expected of them, they become more efficient in accomplishing the task.
Well-rested children are going to be more self-assured. They're going to be less demanding. They're going to be more sociable. They're going to be more attentive.
This could be one tool to help solve some of the frustrations that they're feeling. The schedule is made to serve me. I'm not serving the schedule.
Consistent routines provide a sense of security and predictability, which helps children manage their emotions. You can't have flexibility without routine. Creativity is found within boundaries.
We're going to maximize their gifts, their capacity, their creativity, their intellect.
Everything.
So many things
Yeah.
from having a basic routine.
A basic routine.
All right, our topic today is actually going to bring a lot of freedom to families, especially if you have a toddler, but really for any age. But it's funny, as soon as we name the topic, some people are going to go, "Ee!"
And maybe not even want to
Not even want to listen.
continue playing, but you should. You should
Please
still listen.
stick with us.
That's
Stick
right.
with us.
Stick with us till the end. It's going to benefit you and benefit your family in so many ways.
It will give you freedom, I promise. All right, so you want to say what we're talking about?
How about I say one word and you say one word?
Okay.
Structure.
And routine.
I actually gave you two
Thank
words.
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Does and count? I guess
Yes, it does. That's a word.
You just don't capitalize it.
You do not. No.
Okay.
But it is a word.
Structure and routine. It can sound, it's interesting. I think it depends on maybe how you were raised, what it was like in your family. And some of it may have to do with temperament and personality. Like there's some people, maybe the more spreadsheet loving people who are like, yes, give me a structure, give me a routine, give me a schedule. Others who maybe are a little more free-flowing think that sounds constricting, but hang with us. I think by the end, you will think, oh, actually, there's freedom in it.
Yeah. Structure is just a form of organization. You're just creating organization around something. And routine is creating a habit to that procedure.
It's good.
Structure, a process. Routine, a consistency or a habit to that procedure. And that's really what it is. It's a beautiful thing.
It is. It is. So there's 5 benefits of having structure and routine that we're going to talk about. You want to start us
Before
off?
that, it's not that every minute of the day is scheduled
Right.
by the clock, right?
No.
So
No.
we want to make sure that people understand that that is not the case. Because if that were the case, then
You'd be a prisoner to your routine.
exactly.
Yeah.
But it's predictability that you as a parent and your child can count on.
Yes.
So that's really what we're going to be dealing with today.
Yeah. So start us off with the benefits.
Yeah. So the first one is security. Security in structure and routine is going to give you a sense of certainty that comes from that predictability that I just talked about. So you're going to give that child a sense of control in their lives because there's going to be a predictable way that the day is going to roll,
Yeah.
or that segment of the day
Right.
is going
Right.
to roll. Usually, without predictability, you have some form of chaos.
Yes.
They kind of go hand in hand, unfortunately. And then, if a child is in chaos or a family's in chaos, you have apprehension, you've got uncertainty, and there's different levels of anxiety that come with that when you have that going on. And then when that occurs, you're going to have behavioral outcomes that are not going to be ideal to your child's situation.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Then the second one is cooperation. The second benefit. This is what helps our children to gain self-control during those event transitions, from breakfast to playtime or breakfast to school or whatever next event that has to happen. If the child knows if there is a routine, there is structure to this, they're going to cooperate. because they know there is that predictability, they have that security, and they will be able to cooperate in that event transition. And the possibility of change is part of the flexibility that comes with an established routine.
Yeah. The next benefit is organization. It helps the child organize their thoughts. Children, their brains are developing. So whenever they have positive habitual activities, it's going to help reinforce how the brain works, how the brain organizes details. And it's going to properly sequence logic. It's going to free up the cognitive resources for learning. And they're not going to have to spend energy on wondering what is going to happen or how it's going to work or the changes that could occur without structure. And it frees them up to actually learn, to listen, to process, and to be able to then put things together. That's a whole thing that is a learning in itself. And if there's a lot of fog going on, a lot of inconsistency, it eliminates their ability to do some of that because a lot of their energy is tied up in those things.
Yeah, that's good. The fourth one is confidence. Children who know what's expected of them and how long a task is going to take, how long they're going to, be playing on a blanket on the floor or whatever it is, what effort is required to achieve that task, they become more efficient in accomplishing the task. They can master a task and then have the confidence to try something new. So it's great for kids to have that confidence, knowing what is expected of them.
Yeah. So we've talked about security, cooperation, organization, confidence, and the fifth one, which may be your favorite one. So I feel like that you need to cover this one because it's near and dear to your heart. But it's healthy sleep.
Healthy sleep,
Healthy sleep. So you've got a predictable bedtime routine that's well established, well understood, and followed with your children. Well-rested children are going to be more self-assured. They're going to be less demanding. They're going to be more sociable. They're going to be more attentive. They're going to get along better with their siblings. There's going to be less comments made that, dig at people. I know when I'm more well-rested, I tend to be a little bit more clear, a little more patient.
I'm a nicer mommy with good sleep.
You're a nicer mommy, nicer wife. That's right. You're always nice, though. When are you not nice?
Not when I'm sleep deprived.
Okay.
No.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you for the rose-colored glasses you wear.
But if you're also probably going to be a quicker learner, you're going to be more attentive to learning. And that's going to be a better day for the teacher and for the family, just in general. So I would think also that you're probably going to be more apt to follow through on instructions.
Yeah.
When you're given an instruction and you're given something to do, you're asked to do something as a child. If you're more well-rested, you're going to probably follow through on that.
Yeah.
You're going to have clarity to follow through on that. If you have unhealthy sleep, there's a good chance when you're sleep deprived that all of those things will be exactly the opposite that I just shared.
Yeah.
And you're going to put at risk a lot of things.
And I think we saw that. We were on a vacation recently with our granddaughter, who is 22 months old. And there was a time where the schedule was crazy. She was not able to get her nap. She was not able to get a full night's sleep. And she was not as responsive to her parental instruction as she usually is.
I saw her as perfect the whole trip. Yeah. What are you talking about?
But then I asked her parents, as she got home, she got a full night's sleep. She got back into her routine. She got a good nap. And I asked our daughter, I said, how's she doing? She's like, she's an angel today. Mm-hmm. Amazing. If you sleep deprive me, don't feed me as well as I'm used to being fed, rock my world, I'm going to be a little cranky too. Mm-hmm. And then get me back to good sleep, good food, a good routine. I'll be happier.
That makes all the sense in the world. So a daily routine lets everyone know what's expected, where they need to be, and what they need to accomplish. So you can say that structure and routine brings freedom.
It does. And it reduces the amount of discipline. If, the child's in this chaos and they're reacting and acting out, we're going to correct them. But sometimes it just takes giving them a routine, giving them the security, giving them some predictability, good sleep, and the amount of discipline that
we're going to talk about how to implement here in a few minutes, but doesn't it, I mean, if someone's listening to this and really hasn't been doing a lot of structure, might seem like a lot of work.
It
to
can be
them.
overwhelming to start.
Can you speak to that a little bit before we talk about just the implementation of it, just the emotional side of hearing this topic, hearing like, let's put structure and routine in the family. And if we really don't have a lot of structure and routine, just that mental transition of, okay, we're going to give this a shot.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
I'd encourage the mom or dad that's thinking that's overwhelmed, to think maybe about if they're feeling overwhelmed now or some of the behavior issues that they're seeing. And knowing that this could be one tool to help solve some of the frustrations that they're feeling, some of the chaos that they're feeling, some of the disorganization that they're feeling. Or are they chronically late to things because it takes a lot to get a bunch of kids out the door. To get one toddler out the door is a lot. And so it is going to take self-control on our part as parents to buckle down and do it. But as we go through how to implement, we're going to do it in bite-sized pieces. So hopefully it's not quite so overwhelming. And you may already have a little bit of routine that you're not even aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk about that.
Yeah. So it's really realizing that a change to occur will require work, but the benefits of that change are going to be more and greater than what you're experiencing now, the results you're getting now.
Yeah.
So it probably is going to be worth the risk to take the step forward.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, let's talk about how to implement this.
Yeah. So at the simplest level, it's having an order to your day. You don't have to put in exact time, but having an order. So if you think about it, the order that you can think of is you wake up. There is breakfast. There is lunch. There is dinner. There is go to bed. I mean, that is the general structure. There's a lot that happens in between there. But as
Wow, if I had a day like that, I'm just thinking, man, that would be awesome. Just those 4, 5 things.
That would be it.
Yeah, wake up, eat 3 meals, and go to bed.
What would you do in between?
I don't know.
You get bored.
Yeah, probably would. Yeah, that's true. Good point.
But start with a consistent wake-up time. And when I say consistent, if wake-up time is 7, then think 6:30 to 7:30. Give a window. Don't be militant about it having to be exactly 7. But have a consistent wake-up time. And I would wake our kids up if they slept a whole lot longer. Now, consider context. If we were up late the night before, if we were going to have a busy day, I'll let them sleep in if, it's
or if it's a holiday break week or something like that there really isn't much going on. Yeah.
Exactly.
Maybe you're up later watching movies than the previous nights, all that. Right. Okay.
Exactly. But again, that's context. Be characterized by having a consistent wake-up time. But then meals. Go ahead. If you have a piece of paper and you're writing out a routine for the day, especially for toddlers and younger kids, put in approximate times for meals. If it's 8 o'clock for breakfast, if it's noon for lunch. And again, it can be a window, but that's really helpful. I know sometimes it would be easy for me if I'm engrossed in a project to let lunchtime slip by. And then all of a sudden I've got whiny kids at 2 o'clock because they're hungry. And I'm frustrated because they're whining at me. Well, if I'd stopped what I was doing and actually fed them.
Feed your children, Julie. Feed your kids.
That would help. And that's where having a routine, having a schedule. And again, when we say schedule, sometimes that can sound so constricting. But if I say noon for lunch, anywhere between 11 and 1, 11:30 and 12:30. If they're still napping, having a consistent nap time that they know, and then a consistent bedtime. Mm-hmm. Right there, that's the simplest. The meals, the waking, and the bedtime.
And the nap time. If they're still napping.
And the nap time.
Yep.
Then you can start to add in some of the activities of your kid's day.
And that's where some of you right now can just stop the podcast, pause it. And if you've never done this before, either on your phone or a piece of paper, take out and just lay out those things right now. So you can just see what we're talking about in a 12, 14-hour cycle and just see what that looks like right now. And then come back to, and let's talk about this next part.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're ready for the next, it's write down the activities of your child's day. And now this is going to be different if your child is going to school, if they're going to daycare versus if they're staying at home, but you write out what happens in their day. So a lot of times if it's a toddler and they're at home all day, that's a big day to fill. And so you look at maybe playpen time, blanket time, room time with mom, time with siblings, time with dad, reading books, independent playtime, helping mom with chores. I mean, there's so many things that fill a child's day. And it's not that we're scheduling that minute by minute, but again, it's kind of the order. If the toddler knows, okay, after breakfast, I help mommy clean up, and then she and I read books on the couch, and then we, go for a walk, or then it's blanket time. And again, we can vary. There can be flexibility. We run our day. The day doesn't run us. But any sort of little predictable routines like that, toddlers love. And, if they know blanket time's next, sometimes they'll be running to get the blanket because they know blanket time's next.
So take us through, if they have their piece of paper, their phone out, and they're plugging this in with some of those activities, starting with wake up time, breakfast, and then a few of those activities. What might that look like? Just give an example of what that might look like for you plugging that into a schedule.
Yeah.
So they could see that.
So I might put rough times in there that would just be a guide for me. Mm-hmm. Again, not something that, it's 9:15, I have to be doing this. The schedule is made to serve me. I'm not serving the schedule. So if I put something down
and ultimately to serve the kids well too. Not just
serve
the parent,
the whole family.
Serve the whole family.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. So if I put something down on paper, and then I try it and I'm like, that didn't work. I'll just adjust it and tweak it to make it work for me. When we had a lot of young children and we were homeschooling, I had a pretty detailed schedule written out because I needed the older children to, have 15 minutes with the younger child. And so that they knew it was a courtesy to them. So they knew when I needed them and then when they had time to do their schoolwork or whatever it was that they needed to do.
So take that through just for a few activities. And how would that look like? So you wake up between 6:30 and 7:30, and then what would you say, breakfast? Just walk through some of that.
Yeah. So then there might be breakfast, and after that, it might be, help mom with chores. Then it might be blanket time, and the child does, blanket time. And again, that's in a lot of the Growing Families materials. It explains what blanket time is, how to do it. It's a wonderful thing where a child plays on a blanket with a few toys for a set amount of time. And I would usually be in the room while they're doing blanket time so I could watch them, but I could be doing other things. Maybe that's when I clean up the kitchen. That's when I do some, lunch prep or dinner prep or something like that. Often using a timer so that the child would know when the timer went off. I've taught them to clean up, to put some books away.
So are you just putting these in the schedule back to back to back? Like literally 8:30 to 9, 9 to 9:30, 9:30 to 10. I mean, is that how you're doing it? Or is there some gaps in there knowing that it's going to take longer? Or how does that actually work?
Well, I would put it in the schedule like that. But again, there's a lot of flex. I can't say that every day looks exactly the same. That's where it would be constricting if it was, to the 5 minute. But as detailed as I needed it to be or wanted it to be.
That's good.
We have some friends. She had a list on the wall in their house, and it was.
This is for school age kids.
This
right?
is for some of them. I think she had some toddlers too that couldn't yet read, so she also had this in pictures. But when her kids, they have 5 children in the morning. With 5 kids getting off to school can be chaos, can be crazy, and so she on her list she had make bed, brush teeth, brush hair, get dressed, eat breakfast, get your backpack and lunch, ask what you can do to help, sit on the steps. So it was basically, those are 8 things that I just listed that the kids all knew had to get done. They would do them in that order.
I think my favorite one on that is get dressed.
Well,
it
needed everything.
Yeah, exactly.
You cannot take anything for granted.
Can't take anything for granted this day and age. That's right. Get dressed.
But then the kids knew what to expect. That was their morning routine. There were no times behind it. She probably had a wake-up time.
Well, there's probably a time they had to leave by.
Yes.
Like, here's where we need to be out the door by. So this is a drop-dead time.
Be on the stairs. And she also realized that they had a 2-story house, that if she allowed the kids to go upstairs after they had come down, so after they had made their bed, after they had gotten dressed,
ate breakfast, maybe they were eating breakfast downstairs.
Yeah, and then she might, it's time to brush your teeth or brush your hair. She realized that if she sent them upstairs, a lot of times she lost them because there were distractions in their room. And so she brought toothbrushes downstairs to the bathroom for every kid and a hairbrush downstairs so that once the kids were down, they were down for good. Which is just thinking through things like that. What is causing chaos in my day? Where am I losing the kids? And how can I problem solve so that that doesn't happen again?
And I think what you need to do, and this is really what she did, is work through the activities of that part of their day, put them in an order that they could follow. They knew what to expect. They knew what needed to be done. They knew what the end game was. And with that, they could just work through the list. And after a while, they probably figured it out.
Yeah.
They probably didn't need the list.
Then it became a habit.
Mm-hmm.
And once that's the goal, is to establish this habit.
Yeah. Because you're going to have all kinds of ages of kids that you're dealing this with, but you're going to have all kinds of activities that are in there. It could be playtime outside. It could be go for a walk. It could be read a book with dad. It could be help dad with the chores outside, help mom with the chores inside. And not only are you creating a structure and a routine for them, it is going to take you longer to do some of these activities.
Yeah.
But what you're going to get out of it is you're going to be slowed down initially, but you're teaching them.
Yes.
And you're teaching them so much that the payoff on the back end is going to be immense.
Yes.
Instead of doing everything for them and then them having to figure it out on their own when they get older.
Yes. I can say years of toddlers doing laundry with me that always slowed me down. All of our kids do their own laundry now. It's amazing.
It's crazy good. Yeah. It is
The
amazing.
fruit is coming, parents. Be patient.
Yeah, that's so good.
Do you want to
So
talk about bedtime routine? You handled a lot of that in our household growing up. And even now when our granddaughter spends the night, you're the one who does the bedtime routine with her.
Yeah, it's really, really a lot of fun. I probably enjoy it more now and should have enjoyed it more back then. So I would encourage you, I guess with all of this stuff, some of it is going to be weighty. I mean, just in nature, but enjoy the season of your life as you raise your kids. And bedtime routine is one of those that I think you can enjoy. Kids love bedtime routine.
Mm-hmm.
Keep it simple because you're committing to it.
Yeah.
And you're going to do it over and over again. Most kids go to bed every night, so it's once a day.
That's the goal.
Yeah, that you're going to do this. So it can be as simple as take a bath, brush your teeth, or even go before that. Pick up the room, take a bath, get them dressed, brush their teeth, and then read a book, sing a song. Something as simple as that. And our granddaughter now knows the routine, loves the routine. It's super simple to do. It's predictable for her. The good thing is that once you teach it, if you forget, they will remind you and they will keep you in check and they will not let you go on to the next step until you do the book and then sing the song. And if you forget to sing the song and put them down to bed, they will remind you and you will sing the song. And pretty soon you'll be back in routine with them.
Yeah.
So that's what I love about it. And she just absolutely loves that consistency, and it creates a calmness in them so that when they actually get in bed, you can just tell they're ready. They're ready to go to sleep.
It's that predictability. It happened the way I thought it would happen. It's organized in my mind and I'm at peace.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and for us, knowing what's going to happen and being able to lay that out for them, there's some sense of leadership in that too.
Yeah.
And they want to be led. They want to be led.
To lead
this.
well. Yes.
Yeah. You're the one
Yeah.
that likes these spreadsheets and organization. I mean, you're the spreadsheet queen of our family, I think.
I do tend to enjoy that more, the organization, the structure, the schedules. But I have learned that the schedule is to serve me. I am not to serve the schedule. I'm not a slave. Like I said, when I would come up with the schedule and hand it out to the kids at the beginning of a new school year, I always made sure to say, this is a guide. I am in charge, not this piece of paper. I have the right to tweak it, to change it, but also understanding they enjoyed the predictability of it, knowing what was next. So it worked really well for our family, kept it moving, kept our day going, allowed me to be able to homeschool a lot of children and still be able to do it because I knew the toddlers, were in playpen time. They the baby usually had, 15 minutes with each of the 3 older siblings. So it wasn't overburdensome to any of the older siblings, but it also gave me, 45 minutes there where I could work with another child. So it really freed up my day. I knew that there was predictability in what I was going to be able to get done with the children. The other kids knew that there was predictability. The toddler knew that they had time with the older brother and they were excited for it. And so it just flowed really well for us.
Yeah. For some folks that this isn't something that normal.
The spreadsheet would give them hives.
Yeah. So you don't have to do a spreadsheet. You can write it out. You can use your phone, however you want to do it. But it's going to give you a lot of freedom to do it. For those that live by the spreadsheet and a more structured, just make sure that you're building some fun in there and make sure that the spreadsheet isn't what you're living by. These are kids that you're working with here. It's a family. You're raising them. So make sure that you're not sticking so tight to that you're losing out the relational side.
Yes. And the benefits of it. If it's frustrating you, something needs to change.
That's right.
Well, good. Well, this has been good. Let's ask Gary and Anne-Marie to come in because I know they have some really good insights that they want to share on
that
this
sounds
too.
Great. Let's do it. Well, we're back here with Gary and Anne-Marie Ezzo, founders of Growing Families.
Yes, thanks for coming.
Oh, it's always our pleasure.
Certainly.
Yeah, and listening to this, I mean, 4 of us could actually talk for hours about some of these things, but
I don't think people listening to the podcast want to listen to a 2-hour podcast on this.
Yeah,
Some might,
but anyway, there was, so many thoughts that I was thinking as I was listening. But just for those that are listening, that maybe you have already done prep for parenting or baby wise. I mean, this is not a concept that's foreign to you about having a routine, and you've already reaped the benefits of that. But it's somehow, once our littles become toddlers, it's like we don't think it applies anymore, but it applies even more so. And that was another,
Isn't that true, though? In a lot of things in life, you stop doing what got you to where you got to because you think that you don't need to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And then you look back later and go, why did I just keep doing that?
Exactly. Yeah. So we want to encourage you to keep on doing what you were doing. You were you began as you meant to go. So let's continue with that. And the other thing that really caught me is, and I think both of you may have said it at different times, but what's causing chaos? And I thought that's such a great question. And sadly, the reality is we tend to want to blame our kids for the chaos. Yeah. And it's not their fault.
No.
I mean, they don't know
point.
how the day is supposed to go. We are the parents, and maybe we say that a lot, but I think we need to be reminded. I mean, you remember when your kids were younger. I certainly, even though it was a while ago, but have done grandparenting and now great-grandparenting. We're still the ones that have the wisdom and the education and all of that to help to direct our children. So if there's a lot of chaos, it really isn't the kids' fault. What they're acting out is there is a lack of structure and routine in their day, and so they don't know what happens, and so they're going to fill it up with what kids do, and that's creating chaos sometimes.
Yes, they do that.
So anyway.
So what's going on in the brain, Mr. Ezzo?
Well, I absolutely enjoyed the presentation. But again, I went back to an article that I have up on our childwise.life website, but have to get it over to the growingfamilies.life website. But it deals with this very topic. But it has to do, again, going back to our last podcast, it has to do with the inner workings of the brain.
And there'll be a link to this in the show notes.
The child.
So in the show notes, you can grab this.
The hidden influence of structure and routine. And it really is a hidden influence. And what saddens me is we have both experienced, I think we've all experienced those calls, those parents that are in our classes that did give up on their routine. Not give up like, oh, it doesn't work for me. But as Rich said, we've achieved success. And so they stop when they don't realize this is the pathway to success. In fact, in this paper I was talking about, well, how it's explained is this adaptive neuroplasticity, which basically is a very positive way of how we as parents influence the architecture of the brain. The brain is set, it's going to grow in a certain way, but we can add to the positive side of it. And that is also compared with this adaptive with the maladaptive neuroplasticity, which is the negative, with things that you don't want to do. But at the top of the list of what is the positive influence comes routine, predictability, the steadiness of it, and what that does in a very positive way. And I thought what I'd like to do is just, in a sense, just go through just a few of my cliff notes. And again, they could get this on the website. What actually is happening when parents have just a basic routine, not rigidity, not strictness, but a routine that has flexibility, that understands the core concept of context. What is actually happening in the child's developing world? And let me give you the first one. First of all, it talks about building healthy neural pathways through repetition. And isn't that what structure and routine is all about?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of repetition. Daily routines involves repeated activities like feeding, sleeping, playing, reinforcing neural pathways related to memory, learning, and habit formation. And over time, these pathways become more efficient, enabling the infant, the toddler, the preschooler, the middle years, the teenager to learn and to adapt more easily because they're familiar with the process of routine. The second thing is enhancing emotional regulations because consistent routines provide a sense of security and predictability, which helps children manage their emotions. Remember, we used to talk about the playpen, and we said, use the timer. Let the timer go off. Let them become accustomed to not their cry, if they did have struggled initially, to be the result, the reason why mom came, but the timer is the reason why mom came. Well, helping to facilitate emotional regulation is part of what a basic routine does every day, day in and day out. Then there's also promoting what is called executive function. Routines encourage the development of self-managing functions such as attention, impulse control, and planning. For example, knowing that a snack comes after playtime helps the toddler learn sequencing and anticipation. Well, you wouldn't get that. If there is no routine, this is all being bypassed. And then there's, of course, language development is simply because mommy or daddy uses the same language about picking up toys. Next is a playpen. Now we're going to have lunch. That's all part of language formation, the habit of hearing it over and over again. It also straightens the parent-child bond, the attachment that is so needed. Routines often include special moments like bedtime stories, which hit on this, putting kids to bed, the sharing of meals, which activates the brain's reward system because we're talking to the child. The child's being rewarded as they're seeing our smiles, our excitement over what's happened in their day. Another one, finally, this sixth one, has to do with creating opportunities for problem solving. Predictable routines allow children to anticipate events and explore their environment. For instance, knowing where toys are stored and how to put them back, or where I have to go to retrieve something really special, my bunny rabbit, my baseball, my kickball, whatever it is, its memories is working. And it all comes because routine facilitates this. So finally, I think the takeaway is this: a structured routine, nurturing daily activities, supports this optimal neural wiring, and that's why they call it the adaptive neuroplasticity, because it's the positive architecture of the brain is being facilitated simply by something like structure and routine. But without it, you do not get these benefits. And that's why they call it maladaptive neuroplasticity, because the architecture is not working. What you're putting into the brain is going against what the brain is trying to do. So I'm excited about, once again, seeing science catch up to God.
Yeah.
Because when you look at it, when you look at it from, I guess, a Christian worldview, even from a non-Christian worldview, the stars, the seasons, the tides, everything to the exact minute. They come, they go. There's an ebb and there's a flow. There is the passing of all of the beautiful wonders of this in the sky. It's all on routine. That's his nature. It's routine and predictable. I think that's what I'd like to add, because I think it's part of glorifying God because of who he is and what he created.
That God of order.
God of order.
Yeah.
And our brain wants, that's the inclination is for it to become organized. And so we can
Absolutely.
help to facilitate that. One that struck me too is that the whole emotional regulation. Even as adults, we know when we don't know what's coming next, we feel insecure. And for myself, if I'm insecure about something, I become kind of dysregulated. And so for a child, it's even worse. And again, going back to even some of our previous the podcasts about speaking life, when our child becomes dysregulated, and if we don't have a plan, we become dysregulated, and usually the words that flow out of our mouth are not encouraging and life-giving.
They're not life-giving.
Well, Anne-Marie mentioned Speaking Life. We'll have a link to the podcast episode that talks about that, because that's, if you haven't heard Speaking Life and you're just hearing that for the first time, go back and listen to that episode, then come back to this, because that's super critical to all that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
It is.
I didn't mean to cut you off. You had something to say there.
Yeah, I don't know. It left my brain. Sorry.
Okay. I know.
Did you have one that stuck out to you that Gary shared?
Well, just overall, I think because my temperament, my personality really craves, probably more than some people, order and structure and routine. So I just think back to me as a toddler, and then other children who have the same tendencies, who, crave structure and order, what that probably did to my brain as a child. I know my mom was good about having structure and order. I still remember my dad drawing out days of the week. So I learned my days of the week, and there was a washing machine on Thursday. So I knew Thursday was washing machine day, and I think I went to preschool on Monday and Wednesday. So there was a picture of, a school. There was a picture of a church with a cross on Sunday. So even at a young age, my parents were kind of showing there's an order to our week. This is what the order to our week looks like. Laundry gets done this day, and you go to school this day.
I knew I married well, because I don't remember this as a kid. So I'm sure my parents did this, but she's an all-star, isn't she?
Yeah.
Come on.
But I just think because my brain craves that, if I'd been, maybe raised with a lot of chaos, how would that have, stunted my growth? Would have stunted my brain growth?
But you never know. And, and for me, I tend to be a procrastinator. So for me, having that plan of structure and routine helps me to stay focused and to complete my task. Otherwise, it's like, I can do that later. And then it doesn't get done. So that's not helpful for
I wouldn't
a
say
child
you're a
either.
procrastinator, Anne-Marie. I just think you're pacing yourself.
Thank you. That's a very life-giving way
and you're
of
just
saying
pacing
it. Yes.
yourself to make sure you don't overlook the things that people overlook when they don't pace themselves.
Is that it? Yeah.
So your ability to see things and notice things along the way is amazing. And if you didn't pace yourself, you wouldn't be able to do
I
that.
wouldn't be able to do
From
that.
a fellow pace
Yeah.
setting.
I can rationalize and say, well, I'm creating margin in my day.
It's not rationalization.
That's good.
You need that. You're not overlooking
Yeah.
the bleeding child alongside the road.
No.
You're seeing that person.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
For those parents who have a leaning towards free range children, I really like to encourage them to give consideration, because that is not how your child's developing brain works. They really do want order. They really do want structure. They need guidance, and that's going to come from mom and dad understanding the importance that structure and routine brings into a child's life.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean no flexibility. I talk about the schedule or the routine that we have, and a friend would call and say, hey, it's a beautiful day. You want to go to the park? Yes. And I want I want parents to hear that because there is freedom in that. It's not so rigid. Like, nope, schedule says at 10 o'clock that we have to be reading books on the couch. That's legalism.
Yeah,
no
for sure.
flexibility.
Well, just take you back to the original meaning.
Yeah.
You can't have flexibility without routine.
That's
So
true.
flexibility allows you to stretch like a rubber band because you're naturally going to come right back to your routine.
Mm-hmm.
If there was no routine, there is no flexibility. It's just massive chaos, something different every day.
Well, and I think you addressed that, Rich, when you talked about your granddaughter and being on the trip, because she had a routine. So even though it was all cattywampus
Thrown to the wind.
yes, during the vacation, but when she got back into her regular routine, then she was able to readapt and come back.
My
to
world
that.
is all together again.
Exactly. So that was a great illustration of what
Yeah.
flexibility looks like.
Yeah.
That rubber band, it stretches, but it can come back.
Yeah.
So, Gary, you mentioned problem solving. You got someone that's more loose or free range with their kids. They might say, well, they're going to learn how to problem solve by the flexibility of giving them their own schedule. Talk a little bit about maybe what you've learned, what you've experienced from, and this, Emery too, you can jump in on a parent that leads with structure and routine, and about how that's going to yield better problem solving skills long term for that child as they become older, adults, etc.
Well, I think in the world, at least in the literature of neurobiology right now, the very concept of routine and predictability, Rich, is the prerequisite in order to move the child to what is considered to be optimal learning or optimal awareness. Will a free-range child learn some things? Yes, of course they will. But what we're talking about, just like we did in the preparation for parenting and the baby wise, we're not talking about sleep. We're talking about optimal sleep yields optimal alertness. And it's the same principle here. It's not that your child's not going to be able to adjust or be able to have emotional regulations sometimes that are working for the whole family. But what are you doing for the child in terms of optimal development?
Yeah, to allow their gifts to be used to the maximum that they were given. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, what it is there's capacity and the need to fill that capacity. And what happens is some parents just have a very low reserve in a capacity that otherwise could be filled. Routine and predictability fills this particular architectural capacity of the child's brain. And that's why it's so important. But it's not just the positive. It's enough evidence that shows if you don't do this, the consequences are pretty dire in terms of what the child is losing. And that's why I think there is this whole swing now, again, in the bioneurological or neurobiological literature, that's coming back to some of the fundamental things that our grandmothers knew, some of the fundamental things that we were teaching and that you guys have shared. And what those fundamental things are saying is, let's get back to basic structure and routine.
And I think the other thing that's important for our parents and for all of us to remember, we are not just raising a child, we are raising an adult. I mean, to become an adult, a functioning adult. So you take the whole idea of a free range. Well, that might work fine in your house, but the world is not going to be a free range for our children when they become adults.
What's the ripple effect of that decision?
Their boss is not going to say, oh, well, whenever you decide you'd like to show up for work is fine. I mean, some are trying that nowadays. It's not always working well.
Can you talk to the parent who says, but I don't want to stifle my child's creativity?
Well, yes.
You hit his button.
Yeah, we'll have to do another podcast on this. But yeah, creativity is not found in unrestricted play or social environments. Creativity is found within boundaries. It's always been found within boundaries. And creativity, it's the boundary, the routine, the structure that allows the mind to develop a creative thought.
To have the freedom to do that. Yeah.
Exactly. You can't get if you have no boundaries, if there's no structure, if there's no routine, there's no necessity for creative thinking. Creative thinking is one of the hallmarks of this adaptive neuroplasticity that comes from routine. It's just it's embedded within. It's baked within the system of how God structured the human brain and that developing brain.
That's fascinating. So
It is.
we're going to maximize their gifts, their capacity, their creativity, their intellect,
Everything.
so many things
Yeah.
from having a basic routine.
A basic routine. That's it.
Yeah. Any other thoughts? Any other things that you think are important to hit at here?
I just love hearing everything you guys teach. So I'm waiting for the next one.
Tune
so
in
we,
2 weeks.
we have one repeat listener. That's encouraging.
I think we have a lot more than that.
I hope so.
I hope
yeah.
we do.
I hope so.
Which brings me to, we hope you have enjoyed listening to this podcast. In the show notes are links to the articles that we mentioned, to various videos and teachings that we have on this topic. So if you want to go a little bit deeper, there's also links to the website where we list out all the classes. There's more videos. There is so much on that website. Also, how to get in touch with the contact mom.
Yep. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. And if you click subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to, you will get these episodes downloaded to you when they come out.
Yes. And if you're enjoying this, could you leave us a 5-star review? We really appreciate that. And it would help others. The more we have that, it helps others to find these topics.
If you're watching on YouTube, do the same thing.
Like and
the video.
subscribe.
Like and
Yes,
subscribe.
leave us a comment. And we love to hear from you. Feel free to email us questions, topic suggestions to podcast@growingfamilies.life.
Yeah, it's been great having you along for this episode. And Aaron Emery, thanks for joining
Thank
us
you.
again.
Thank you.
It's our privilege.
And we look forward to the next time together. Yep. Have a great day.